If I had to start my career from scratch, right from the beginning, what would I do and how would I do it? Let's dive into this. First of all, I would figure out my style. I would work out exactly what it is I stand for as a fashion photographer and then create a body of work that is nothing but that. I would also push myself to experiment with things, but I wouldn't necessarily put everything out there publicly on my website. I would experiment with different things so that I could work out what my style is, but I would analyze every single shoot I do really intensely so that I knew exactly what kind of work was working for me and what wasn't. I would also plan my shoots super extensively. Knowing what I know now, it is so important that my shoots are planned to a T. I talk about planning shoots so much because when I started out, I didn't do that. I didn't plan my shoots. I would just wing it and it never worked in my favor. So I would be planning my shoots so extensively, every single detail of every single shoot. Even if it's just a test, an experiment, I would go into that experiment intentionally planning to try these various different experiments. That would be the intention of the shoot. Then after the entire shoot, I would consolidate everything that has worked and ask myself why it's worked and why it perhaps also hasn't, if it hasn't worked. If I was starting from scratch and I didn't have any work as a photographer, I think I would also have a job. Genuinely, I think that I would have a job on the side and know that building my career up could take a few years, and I obviously need to have money to be able to pay for my mortgage, my bills, my life. And I would know that I'm doing this for long-term gain and not necessarily as a quick overnight thing. And I think that's really important. It's really hard to be patient with this career. It's hard to be patient for anything. So I know that that is a really hard thing to imagine myself doing, but I would just go all in on the weekends on every single opportunity I had that was free to me, and I would shoot whenever I could intentionally. However, I wouldn't shoot every week, and this might surprise a lot of you, but I would shoot probably once a month, but I would plan those shoots so extensively that every single shoot I do every month would be perfect. It would be going in my portfolio and ticking off that missing piece in my portfolio every single time. I'd also always ask myself who I want to shoot for, and then I would make sure that I was studying the brands that I loved and I was creating portfolio work that would appeal to those brands every single time. I'd also not be afraid of begging and borrowing and stealing for my shoots. I am pretty good at getting people to help me anyway, but I think that I would, if I do this anyway, so I know I would, but it's like being okay with asking for help and asking for your friends and your family to support you. A good example for me is, I was starting out, and I still do this, but when I was really in the early stages, I would reach out to my friends and ask if I could use their homes as backdrops. I would ask if I could use their gardens as backdrops. I would ask my family to ask their friends if I could use their homes or their gardens or their surroundings or access their various things. And that was how I built up the beginnings of my career. And that's exactly what I would do again. I would just ask for as many favors from as many people. And if there's something really specific that I wanted to photograph, or I had a vision for a specific kind of shoot that I knew I wanted to do that would fill in the gap in my portfolio, I would ask around, like, does anyone have a boat? Or does anyone have access to a boat? Or does anyone know someone who has access to a boat? Because you'd be surprised. I've used the boat as a random example, but you'd be surprised how many times that becomes a reality to you. If you don't ask, you don't get, and that's a really strong lesson I learned early on in the days, and I would do again in a heartbeat. And my main focus for probably a year would just be building up a really solid portfolio. I would spend a whole year working full time, shooting every few weeks, and creating a really, really intentionally strong body of work so that when I get to that 1 year, I would have enough work to be able to then go out and market myself with. And I've written in my notes, I would market myself like mad. I would go crazy for the marketing, pitching, I would be booking meetings, I would be going to networking events, I'd be saying yes to things, even if I didn't think that they were going to necessarily be the long-term thing I want to do, but they would get me practice meeting people, they would be getting me shooting in front of people, they would be making me network. When you're on a shoot, you're networking. So I would be saying yes to everything. Doesn't mean it would all be going in my forward-facing portfolio, but I would be shooting loads. And finally, I would keep doing a really, really good job on set. I would just do as good a job I can for my clients, because my goal still now, and if I had to start again, would be the same, is keep my clients, retaining clients. Once you have a client, you want to keep that client for as long as you can. It's impossible to keep every single one. All clients at some point are gonna want to work with someone different or try a different style, or they'll move into a different direction. But for as long as you can, if you can keep one client and keep going back to them for work and work time and time again, that's the goal. The way you get retaining clients is by doing a stellar job. And that would be my main focus. Every single job I get, do an incredible job so that they want to come back to me and keep working with me. And I would keep doing the same. I would keep building my portfolio. I'd keep pitching myself. I'd keep emailing people. I'd keep networking. And the reality is that everything I've just said, if I had to start again and what I would do, is all stuff I'm doing now already. I wouldn't actually change anything. I would just take everything that I've learnt in the 15 years I've been doing this and condense it down, and the process would be so much quicker because I would know exactly what to do. And that's why I do this. This is why I share content and create courses and do all the stuff, is because I want to help you speed up the process. It doesn't have to take you 15 years to get to where I am. It can take you 1, 2, 3. It can be really quick. So that's what I would do if I was starting completely from scratch as a fashion photographer, and I hope that's been helpful to you. Let me know, what would you do if you had to start from scratch, and I hope that's been helpful.